गुरुर्मूर्ति पूजामूलं गुरुपदम् मन्त्रमूलं गुरुर्वाक्यम् मोक्षमूलं गुरुर्कृपा ॐ श्री गुरवे नमः।
General K.V. Krishna Rao Garu, former Chief of Army Staff and former Governor of Jammu and Kashmir, to address the gathering. Sir, please.
Your Holiness, SathGuru Ji, esteemed awardees and respected audience, I feel honored to have been invited this evening for this auspicious function and to present awards to an array of top-class professionals who have served the nation and brought it great pride. I feel that the awardees selected this time, I have had a chance to look at the lists right from the beginning, are some of the most distinguished among the distinguished. You have heard their speeches, I would say brilliant speeches, and I am sure they would inspire future aspirants to do even better than what they are doing. The selection of the awardees, I feel, has the consent of SathGuru Ji, no doubt about it, and I feel we should congratulate him on picking out such people from, I am sure, a long list given to him by the Trust Committee. I feel that such recognition of merit does a lot, not only to those who have displayed it, but for many, many others in the future. As you know, the nation is going through a difficult time. We have been ruled by alien conquerors for centuries, having had a few great emperors like Chandragupta Maurya, Ashoka, Harsha, and so on. But after this long rule, we have had the good fortune of having Mahatma Gandhi to lead a freedom struggle. It was a very hard struggle. He had with him some of the founding fathers of the nation who helped him and the public at large. It was a non-violent struggle, unlike many countries which had to stage bloody revolutions. Now, having got independence, it's not that they indulged in celebrations and other tamashas. The founding fathers have done this nation a great deal from their point of view. They have given us a wonderful constitution which has stood the test of time. They have brought out a system of planning, a 5-year plan kind of thing, which has been working quite well. They have done their best to unite the country. It was a very divided country. I'll come to that a little later. And they have created great inspiration among the people to feel proud of being an independent nation. Now, that's what the founding fathers have done. But I leave it to you to guess how things are at the present moment. I won't like to comment since you are all fully aware of it. There are a few things I feel the nation must do in order to continue to sustain our democracy, which is indeed a great benefit that we have derived out of independence, and sustain it forever. I feel that one of the first things that is required is greater unity and political stability in the country. As I mentioned, we have been conquered, ruled by alien leaders for centuries, hundreds of years. And people must realize the value of that freedom. There seems to be an impression, since we got it by not a bloody revolution, not great sacrifices, that freedom is just like that, nothing great about it. The spirit of appreciating the value of freedom to a nation, the value of independence, must be inspired among all our youth. The question of political stability. We lost independence hundreds of years ago because there was no stability. The country was divided into a number of principalities who were not strong enough to resist invaders, and therefore invader after invader came and conquered the nation. Although some of the invaders settled down in the country, they became Indians and fought the next invader, and so on it went. But now, do the people realize why all that has happened? I feel that our political parties, instead of just indulging in their own personal and party needs, must think much higher, think of the nation first, that we are Indians first and anything else later. That spirit must come into this country, and after all, they are known as political leaders, and they are the ones who must set an example to the rest of the society. The other aspect I would like to stress is economic self-realization. We must, to the extent possible, no country can be absolutely economically independent, but it is something that will help in the build-up and strengthening of the nation. At the moment, we have a fine economist as our Prime Minister, and I'm sure he will do his best. In fact, he has done when the country was in trouble much earlier during Mr. Narasimha Rao's time, and they sorted out the problem of foreign exchange with great merit, and we were out of the problem very soon. But now again, there is recession in the West, particularly in the USA. It has had its impact on our nation as well to some extent. But again, I feel that it hasn't really spread widely among the agencies, and we are not that badly affected. But we have to be cautious about these threats that occur to the nation. Threats are not just military. These are all part of the threats that a nation has to face. We need a lot of investments in this country, but if you read what is happening, they can only take place if the atmosphere is inviting. Everybody criticizes our bureaucratic methods. This has been going on for a long time, and there is no reason why these cannot be set right so that we attract a large number of good investors to invest in our country. We are, after all, a developing nation. The other aspect which I feel is most important for strengthening the nation is advances in science and technology. You have a number of experts here on the stage today, and what they have done was tremendous contribution for the nation's progress. But that's what you want, much more of it. As one who experienced the result of their work by being a soldier in wars and so on, I can say that what we need, which is very essential for the nation, is still not coming out of their hands. They have done very well in missile technology, and I hope they will do even better because our hopes are much greater. But in other aspects, like say the defense forces need tanks, guns, other equipment. Now all these we are importing from outside. It's not a very good thing. In the event of a war, you may not get the necessary equipment or the spares or people who know how to handle the mechanical maintenance part of the thing. So it is necessary that the country must be independent in producing the requirements of the nation and particularly of the armed forces. Yet another aspect I feel is essential is social harmony. It's not very much there. It's lacking, in fact. Every day we are fighting and people are demanding things like sovereignty. There are ethnic differences, casteism, communalism. All this after more than 60 years of independence. And I am sure you will agree with me, it reflects on the leadership, particularly the political leadership. I feel that the sooner we overcome these snags, the better it is for the nation. Having served in some very difficult areas and where people don't belong to the majority community for a long time, I can tell you that the public, the people of those areas, like northeastern states, they are all very small states. Most of them are tribals, and yet they are as loyal to this country as you and me. It's not that they are demanding sovereignty, independence, and so on. They don't know really what these things mean. What they want is really a much greater degree of autonomy. They were neglected During the British period, Indian leaders were not allowed to go into those areas. After independence, our founding fathers were busy settling crores of refugees who have come into the country from the other side, planning and in fact running the nation, and at the same time they had to undertake a war in Jammu and Kashmir. So they feel neglected and that the country is not caring much for them. There were prime ministers like Indira Gandhi who toured extensively these areas. Similarly, in the northwest, you have Jammu and Kashmir. It has a majority Muslim population, but that doesn't mean maybe it's creating an impression on you, the trouble that takes place there, infiltration and so on. It's mostly by Pakistanis. And the people there, I can assure you, are just as loyal to this nation as anybody else. You may think they are Muslims, so they are suspects. They are not. These things must be realized by the public at large within the country. Then only, and we must do justice to those areas who have been neglected earlier, ignored earlier, and they must get their dues. They feel that much greater autonomy will help them. They have their own customs, their traditions, which they would like to be protected. Now, last of all, one of the most important things the nation has to do is to have really effective armed forces. That gives strength along with the other things that I have mentioned earlier. Now, you have heard during the Kargil conflict, one of the chiefs of that period, when asked a question as to what he would do if the war extends to the entire border, he said, "We'll fight with what we have." It's not a very good statement. I felt so myself. But it is a correct statement that he made, because the armed forces were deprived of their essential needs by denying the necessary financial support. For about nearly 12-15 years or so, in the later period, they must have their requisite necessities, essential necessities. Otherwise, suddenly, wars don't give you much warning. Let me tell you that. Suddenly they descend upon you. As it happened in Vajpayee's time, he had to deploy the armed forces. But of course, he didn't give okay to go ahead. This kind of thing happens, and the armed forces must be in a position of constant preparedness. So you can't say, we can't afford to give you so much money, then you stop the enemy taking up any adventurous activities. It's not our responsibility. If you don't give enough money and equip them adequately, well, you are depriving them of the needs for effective fighting. So this is very essential. It should be a public concern that they are kept absolutely fit and ready. There is a war, they will use it. But we have always said that we will not be the first to use it. It's okay to say that, but then suppose the enemy doesn't oblige you and he uses it, then what happens to this country? And I'm not talking of Pakistan alone. If the enemy can reach New Delhi from his territory, then we should be able to hit his capital as well. If New Delhi is hit, I would like to hit Beijing. I don't see why we should be deprived of that facility. Therefore, what I want to stress is that the governments, whoever it is, it doesn't matter to us which party, The army is very, very secular, I can assure you, and very democratic in their outlook. So whichever party is there, it is one of their primary responsibilities to ensure that the armed forces are fully equipped and kept in constant readiness, but the country should not wage a war or initiate a war, but be prepared to hit back most effectively and defeat the enemy in case he launches an adventurous action. This is very vital for this nation. Now, these are the major things. There are many other things happening. I mentioned about unity and political stability, economic independence to the extent possible, advances in science and technology, social harmony, and last but not the least, the armed forces. I would like to touch on one more aspect. The country fought after independence 4 major wars, one with China and 3 with Pakistan. And in the last one, the 71 war, the armed forces brought great glory to this nation. Now, the adversaries realized that this is a strong country and they cannot take undue risks with it. But yet, over a period of time, although we were recognized as a regional power, I don't see why we should be just a regional power. I am sure many of you would like to see this country as a great power, a superpower. Why not? The potential is there and it can become one. But because of adverse actions after the 71 war, I think we are experts in killing our prime ministers and chiefs by assassinations. Unfortunately, we lost an excellent prime minister, Indira Gandhi, who understood the vital needs of this nation and tried to cater for them all her life. Whatever it may be, the threats are escalating and things like our adversaries not only sticking to the disputed areas, say like northeast and northwest, but if they are intruding into our interior, mainland India, as we call it, and if they can explode bombs in our major cities, including Delhi and Bombay, I can't see any excuse for that. Why is it happening? I keep on thinking about it, but the solution as to why it is happening avoids me. All I feel is that we are not doing our duty to the country, to the people at large, by allowing such things to happen. These can be prevented. You have the resources and you have the fighting elements. It doesn't mean you will involve the army in everything that goes wrong. But there are people, police, paramilitary forces and so on. And not only that, the public at large must cooperate also. These can be prevented if you have the will to do so. As far as internal security is concerned, I would like to mention that the threats to internal security are almost as great as threats from external adversaries. If not more, it may become, if we are not careful in handling these. And I feel that a very sincere, genuine, legitimate approach to our future is very, very essential. There is a feeling, I find, not only in this country, but all over the world, in many other countries, including USA, that defense, actually I don't like the word defense. It gives a very defensive feeling. National security, I think, is probably a better term. But I was talking even about USA, they were not ready for the attacks that took place on American mainland. Such a thing never happened, even during First and Second World Wars. But yet, a third-rate enemy went and posed a grave threat to that nation, which later initiated a couple of wars which are still going on. Now, surely, there is an answer to this. They have set up a homeland ministry. They have taken various other measures. Maybe in the process, they are creating an impression that they are anti-Islam and so on. But what they are doing, or what harm has been done to them, must also be realized by the people at large. They have to take certain measures. And the same happens. Now, if you see the TV yesterday, today, they are talking about attacks on London. And they are quoting evidence which looks quite credible. You never know, it may take place. And they are citing Bombay as an example for that attack on London. So it just shows that security of the nation is as important, if not more, as rest of governance. You may be an expert in economy, you may be a scientific and technological expert, you may be a great socialist, you may be anything. But if you are running the country, managing the country, you have to realize that security is as important, if not more, as rest of the governance. I hope others are learning it, UK, France, USA, and so on. I hope that our country will also learn it fast. Otherwise, you will keep on having these troubles, not just explosions. It is just the start of it. It could be much more violent and much more troublesome for this nation unless people realize, people, particularly those who are responsible for national security, realize it and ensure by taking various measures, irrespective of whether they may create problems for certain sections of the people, they must take the necessary measures to ensure that the public at large in this country do not have to suffer. I want to invite your attention to an article in our Constitution, 51A. It brings out the responsibilities of a citizen. And what comes out of it is every citizen is responsible for ensuring the unity and integrity of this nation, to promote harmony within the country, to help in the security of the nation, to strive hard to reach positions of excellence so that the nation may perform much better in the future, and so on. If any of you haven't seen that article, I suggest to you very sincerely, please read that. It's a wonderful article which lays down the importance of the normal citizen's responsibilities. I think I have spoken long enough. In fact, I wanted to mention earlier in the beginning itself that when Winston Churchill went to his old school and was asked to give a speech, perhaps he was tired, he went up to the mic and he said, "Never, never, never give in," and went back to his seat. I wanted to ask you whether you wanted me to do the same thing. So I apologize if I talked too long. Thank you all very much, and thank you very much, SathGuru.
Thank you very much for your valuable address, sir. Now, ladies and gentlemen, may I humbly request our Pujya Guruji to felicitate our chief guest, General K.V. Krishna Rao Garu.